Welcome back to another Kray video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any videos. And for people really into the Krays, join our private Facebook group, Krays Crime Lords of London, where you will find stuff probably unavailable anywhere else. We're an established group with a large membership, and best of all, we're friendly. The link is in the YouTube description section.
Hello, my name is Tony Lambrianou, and I ran with the Kray gang back in the 1960s. I wasn't in the firm itself. I was more like an associate member, along with my brother Chris. But I did get to know the twins well, and I saw a lot of what went on firsthand. I'll only ever tell this story once, and when it's done, I'm going to walk away from it for the rest of my life. I don't want to dwell in the past anymore, but to be free of it, I must confess it. I once made a promise to a remarkable woman, my probation officer, Mrs. Jean Heath, that I would someday tell of my experiences as a professional criminal and as an associate member of the notorious Kray firm. Mrs. Heath has since died, and I owe it to her, my loved ones, and myself to offer this true account of a career which grew out of violence, flourished on fear, and culminated in murder, and ended in prison. So much has been said and written about the Kray gang that we have now become the stuff of legend. But at the heart of that legend are real live people, and if I hope to achieve anything, it's to present them through the facts and not the fantasy of the way we lived. For years, I've been hearing what everybody else has to say about us in courtrooms, books, and newspapers, and the twins have taken the chance to reply in print. I intend to set the record straight for all of us that stood together in the dock and went to prison for our crimes. I was 19 when my brother Jimmy went to work at a refrigeration depot which had opened about 100 yards from where we lived in Queensbridge Road. It was owned by a man called Carlo Gatti, who was known as the Ice King of the East End. He had originally made his money selling ice to fish stalls and shops. The depot was purpose-built, and it contained 4 massive stores, each set at a different temperature. If you had turkey for Christmas from his deep freeze, you could bet your life it was 7 years old. Meat traders from all over London used to store their goods at the depot, and various frozen food firms had contracts to put their fish and pies and other foods in there. Jimmy and a couple of his mates were taken on as porters, and he said to me one day, "Why don't you go over there and get a job?" So I did, and before long, we had about 9 of our pals working with us. We used to have to come to work with donkey jackets, thick trousers and socks, steel-capped boots, hats and gloves because it was so cold in there. But we were onto a good thing. We were stealing meat, topsides, silver sides, steaks. Half the stock was disappearing, and we were earning bundles. Jimmy and I had the power in the workforce. If there were any problems in the firm, Jim the manager and Pete the assistant manager would come to us and we'd sort it out. Inevitably, we'd cause trouble every now and again, so they had further reason to ask for help, and we would end up getting more out of them. One day, one of the lorry drivers from Smithfield Meat Market pulled in and asked, "Are you organized in here?" I said, "What do you mean, organized? Union?" He said, "Once you're in with the meat market, you've got a job for life." So, of course, We were very interested. He said, "If I talk to one of our boys, perhaps we can enlighten you on how to get a union here. Any problems, we can back you." Jim and Pete got to hear that the union was becoming very interested in this cold store, and they didn't like it. As things stood, the management could pay lower wages and sack the staff, and they could continue hiring out storage space to frozen food companies, which would be in contravention of the union rules. The meat market handled meat, and meat alone. We appointed a bloke called Ted to be our union official, the puppet who did what we told him. And a few days later, the same driver came to see us. He said, "You know, the meat market have been trying to get this place in the union since it opened, but we won't go in there while it's handling frozen food and all that. Go away and think about it." The prize was a meat market ticket. 10 of us were strong for the union, and 6, led by a half-gypsy called Spike, were against it. We called a meeting, at which I said, "We're on strike. Call the management in and tell them we want to join the union." We had already told this lorry driver we intended to come out, and the meat market had trucks parked up and down Queensbridge Road. We set up a picket line straight away. Me, Jimmy and the boys, and Leon too. A union representative gave Carlo Gatti the message. "The boys are definitely not going back. Not a lorry is going to pass the picket." Gatti wasn't giving in. He thought that he could beat the unions, but he was a doomed man. The 6 employees who were against the strike were just standing around doing nothing. 4 of them were told what would happen to them if they went in there again, and immediately left their jobs. Spike and his brother were not so easily intimidated, but after we bashed them up, they left too. We had support from everywhere. No lorries attempted to cross the picket lines, except for a few frozen food firm vehicles. We approached them, threatened the drivers, and punctured the tires. Other than that, we didn't take a lot of notice of them. They had no power anyway. The strike lasted for 5 months, during which time the meat market was having a whip round for us. Plus we were nicking food from the cold store. It all ended up with us getting our tickets into the meat market. So Jimmy, Leon, Timmy Reynolds, Ted and I, and a couple of others, left the depot and started work at Smithfield. We left Carlo Gatti to pick up the pieces of a completely ruined firm. He lost all his contracts, and the strike sent him virtually bankrupt. It was during our time at the meat market that we became involved in the Oswald Mosley riots in London. We were approached by a friend of ours who was a minder at a dance hall in Dalston, and also a meat market man. He was very friendly with Mosley, a Nazi who was notorious for his anti-Semitic rants and the violent confrontations they provoked with members of the Jewish community. This bloke said to us one day, "You know the area really well. Mosley wants to do a bit of talking in Dalston. You could have a few mates up there to create a fracas while he's talking." Mosley was a guaranteed crowd puller, and he'd have heavies scattered throughout the gatherings to get everyone going. His aim was to attract publicity. Next thing, we were in Dalston Junction with the meat market boys in a crowd of about 1,000. There were riots going on, mass fights with all sorts of weapons, and Mosley was on the news. We weren't in it for anything other than the money. On that occasion, and on several others afterwards, we were getting £50 a tune to be out there Jew baiting. There's a lot of money in racial issues. Mosley was never short of a bob or two, and he always found money to throw around. I have never, ever liked what they did. The Nazis. Anybody who could approve of the terrible things they were responsible for has got to be sick in the mind. It just didn't occur to us at the time that by being at the rallies we were supporting them. To us, it was just a few quid. We treated these people purely on a financial basis. We were in it for what we could get out of it. Jimmy and I, and our friend Davy Sadler, were also picking up a bit of cash for going on Nazi maneuvers, which were organized by Mosley's right-hand man, Colin Jordan. These often took place in Dorset, sometimes on the edge of Salisbury Plain. Occasionally, he'd have his 50 or 60 men marching around Dartmoor. We got into this by accident, through Davy Sadler. He was a giant, about 6'7", though his father Jimmy was a midget of 4'10". We used to go round to his flat in Hoxton to play cards. We'd all be sitting there gambling while his father, this midget, would be running round getting teas and drinks. A fanatical SS lover, Davy used to collect uniforms. You very rarely came across a genuine Gestapo or German uniform. If you did, it was a collector's item. His bedroom was covered in SS flags, and he had dummies dressed in all these Gestapo uniforms. He had machine guns and pistols in there too. One day, he dressed himself up and went marching up and down the heavily Jewish area of Stamford Hill, wearing the uniform, the boots, the lot. Davy organised a holiday for me, Terry Smith and the Venables brothers down in Devon. When we got there, we were each given a .303 rifle, old army issue. He said, "We're going for training." I said, "I thought we'd come down here for a holiday." We stayed for a week, during which time we shot a cow in a field. Stories about the manoeuvres began to appear in the papers, so we disappeared and came back to London. Despite the fact that he lived and really believed in himself as a Nazi, I always saw Davy Sadler as a useful person to have around. We can always do with one of those. After this period, my Jimmy dropped out of things completely, just retreated into the background. He'd come out occasionally, socializing, or to offer brotherly support, but we never involved him in anything again. He went into legitimate business. Had he not, he would have wound up the same as us. By this time, he'd met his wife-to-be, a Hoxton girl called Carol, who married him in 1963. However, before that wedding, there was another one, mine. I hadn't yet turned 20 when Pat informed me that she was expecting a baby, so we decided to get married. It delighted my parents, but I didn't like the idea of becoming a father one bit. It was a responsibility, and at that time, I had no sense of responsibility. We were married in the Register office at Shoreditch Town Hall on the 23rd of August, 1962. Leon was the best man. Chris was still away on his corrective training. I wore a blue serge suit, white shirt, blue tie, and black shoes. I remember buying Pat a nice dress and matching coat in beige. I thought the whole thing was a big joke. I remember bursting out laughing when I took the marriage vows. Pat took it all rather seriously, but my view at that time was, if it keeps her happy, don't worry about it. We got in the car and drove home after the ceremony, and my mother was crying. But that afternoon, I went out as usual. Pat and I went out to the dogs in the evening, and then for a meal with Leon and June. I won £800 at the racetrack, so that was a nice little start for us. It was only later that the whole significance of the day occurred to me. I thought, God Almighty, I'm a married man, and I'm only 20. But being married didn't mean that everything had to stop. My brothers and I always tended to do what we wanted anyway, and I carried on going out and about with my mates. I saw some pressure at home with Pat, though. We needed somewhere on our own, especially with the baby coming. Leon was living in a house in Blythe Street, and he introduced me to the landlord. Pat and I moved into number 22, the top flat next door, and Jimmy and Carol eventually took the flat above Leon. Nicky stayed at home in Queensbridge Road until he was 19, when he moved in with his girlfriend, Kathy Riley, a Bethnal Green girl. My daughter, Karen Lee, came along on the 13th of October, 1962. She was born in Bethnal Green Hospital at midnight on a Tuesday morning. I'd been on the phone all Monday night, trying to find out what was happening. When I found out that Pat had had a baby girl, I rushed over with my mother to see her. I felt absolutely great. It's yours, and nothing can ever take that away from you. When we brought the baby home, my mother wouldn't let her out of her arms. Now she had a daughter, the first girl born to the family. And as the weeks went past, she took the baby over. My mum almost brought her up. Everybody was thrilled about it. Leon and Nicky were always making a fuss of her, and she was spoiled rotten. She was a beautiful baby, my pride and joy, and this was a very happy period for me. The happiness, unfortunately, came to a standstill for a while when Karen was a year old. On the 6th of October 1963, I was sent away for my first term of imprisonment. I'd been arrested one night after going out drinking with Timmy Reynolds and two other blokes called Frankie Hawkey and Jimmy Cribbin. We were all walking along Bethnal Green Road, and as we turned into the top of Valence Road, we went down an alley for a piss. Two constables came along and accused us of attempting to steal a motor car. We were taken to Bethnal Green Police Station and charged with that offence. I was put up as the ringleader and kept in custody, while the other three were bailed out. At that time, there was a CID officer at the station who was determined to make life as miserable as possible for my brothers and me. His name was Sergeant Kray. If he could nick one or more of us, that would have made his day. So he was in his glory when they got me. Next thing, my Jimmy, Leon, and a few of our pals turned up at the police station, and Jimmy threatened to bash him up. The arrest was on a Saturday night. On the Monday morning, Thames magistrates committed us for trial to the London Sessions and heard our applications for bail. Timmy, Frankie, and Jimmy Cribbin had no problems, but the police objected strongly to releasing me and said they believed I'd been interfering with witnesses. However, the magistrate, Donald London, said, "I don't see how you can grant bail to three men and keep one in custody." So, we were all granted bail and subsequently stood trial. Jimmy Cribbin and I were sentenced to 18 months imprisonment. Frankie was sent to a corrective training centre, and Timmy received a Borstal sentence. I found myself first of all in Wormwood Scrubs, but within a few weeks was moved to Eastchurch Prison on the Isle of Sheppey. There was a lot of trouble in Eastchurch. A laundry burned down in mysterious circumstances, so they moved about 30 of us out to different prisons. I had nothing to do with the laundry, but I wanted to get out of Eastchurch anyway. It was like a military camp. I went to Canterbury, and from there was transferred to Stafford. Several months into my sentence, another con in Stafford asked me, "What are you nicked for?" I answered, "Stealing a car." But I don't know how I could have stolen a car that I didn't even move. He was like a barrack room lawyer, this guy. He said, "You cannot be convicted of stealing something you haven't taken." I put in an appeal, and lo and behold, the Court of Appeal set me free over a misdirection of the jury. I walked out of that court in June 1964, saying, "Never again." It was Derby Day. My dad, Pat and Leon were there for me, and we went back to the East End together to my parents' home. I was thinking that was easy enough to get out of. In a way, it was like cocking a snook at the law. Chris, in the meantime, had finished his corrective training and married Carol, a Liverpool girl who worked in public relations and was earning a good living. Like me, Chris was anything but a stay-at-home type, and I was getting around with him. We pulled up with a man called Eric Mason, a well-known villain of the time. Eric had just finished a 7-year stint in Dartmoor prison, and as an old friend of the twins, he went to them for a little bit of help when he came out. Typically, they gave him suits, some money, all the rest of it. With 2 men called Kenny Bloom and Maurice King, he then went into partnership in a West End club called the Brown Derby in Kingley Street. It was a drinker and spieler and gambling club. I was in the Brown Derby one night with Chris, Eric, and another villain called Davy Clare when Reggie came in about 10-handed. I saw Big Pat Connolly, Tommy the Bear Brown, Tommy Cowley, Teddy Smith, Albert Donahue, and a few others. All of a sudden, there was an argument. One of the boys whacked a geezer who came in drunk. The twins didn't allow drunken behavior around them. I remember that incident in particular because it was the night that Reggie came over to me and said, "Come and see us soon, Tony, you and Chris, but be careful of him," meaning Eric Mason. That's all for this edition, friends. We'll continue the story in the next one. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please join our Facebook group. It's called Krays Crime Lords of London. We're a friendly moderated group with over 1,000 Kray and other celebrated gangster videos available for view. There's also thousands of images in the photos sections. The link for the group is in the YouTube description section. I hope we see you there soon.
Leave a like and subscribe.